Disclaimer: this program contains graphic descriptions of real crimes. Viewer discretion is advised. All parties are presumed innocent until proven guilty in court. Sara Ebersole never made it home, and the last person who saw her alive was the man she trusted most. On the night she disappeared, Sara wasn't running from danger. She was walking toward what she believed was love. She kissed her friends goodbye, promised she'd call when she landed, and stepped into a car with a man who told her he had something special planned. Something unforgettable. She had no idea how true that would be. Sara was 26 years old, the kind of woman who smiled with her whole face, who believed new cities meant new beginnings. She had left her small hometown behind because she wanted more. More life, more color, more meaning. Florida was supposed to be a fresh start, not a final chapter. She met him when she wasn't looking for anyone. That's how it always begins. He didn't push, he didn't rush, he listened. He remembered little things, how she took her coffee, the song she played when she missed home, the way she went quiet when she was thinking too hard. To Sara, that felt like safety. He told her she was different. Not like the women who chased attention or drama. He said she had depth, that she saw people. When he talked, he made the world feel smaller, calmer, like nothing bad could reach her as long as he was nearby. The invitation came weeks later. He called it a private party, exclusive, an experience most people never got access to. A weekend getaway on the Florida coast, filled with music, ocean air, and people who understood what it meant to really live. He said it would change the way she saw the world. Sara hesitated for only a moment. She asked who would be there. Friends, he said. Good people. She asked where exactly it was. Somewhere beautiful, he replied. You'll love it. She wanted to trust him, and she did. The night before they left, Sara laid out her clothes carefully. Sundresses, sandals, a swimsuit, and then there was the white dress he asked her to bring. He said it would fit the theme of the party. She held it up, smiling at the mirror, unaware of how that color would come to haunt her. The drive felt endless. As they moved farther from the city, the roads narrowed. Streetlights disappeared. Cell service weakened until her phone showed nothing but empty bars. She joked about it, saying it felt like the start of a horror movie. He laughed. Relax, he said. You're with me? When the house finally appeared, it looked unreal, massive, isolated, glowing against the dark sky like it didn't belong to the real world. Cars lined the driveway. Music pulsed from inside. Laughter floated through the night air. At first, Sara felt relieved. This was just a party. She stepped inside, greeted by warm lights, expensive drinks, and smiling faces. People looked polished, confident, important. Someone pressed a glass into her hand before she could say no. The music vibrated through her chest. For a moment, she forgot the unease crawling at the back of her mind. Then she noticed something strange. No one was using their phone, not to text, not to take photos. Not even to check the time. At the entrance, a woman with a calm smile asked for Sara's phone. She said it was for privacy, for immersion, so everyone could be present. Sara froze. She looked at him. He squeezed her hand and leaned close. It's normal here, he whispered, just part of the experience. And despite the knot in her stomach, despite the quiet voice telling her something wasn't right, Sara handed her phone over. That was the last time anyone heard from her. The night deepened and the party began to change. At first, Sara didn't notice it happening. The shift was subtle, like the moment when laughter fades into background noise and you suddenly realize you're tired. The music slowed, dropping into something heavier, more hypnotic. The lights dimmed until faces became shadows and shadows became shapes that moved without urgency. People stopped talking about normal things. No one mentioned work or family or where they were from. Conversations drifted towards strange topics: rebirth, fear, surrender. A man near the bar spoke passionately about how modern society was afraid of endings. A woman laughed softly and said death was the purest form of truth. Sara forced a smile, nodding along, but her chest felt tight. She searched for him in the crowd. When she found him, he was speaking with a small group near the back of the room, his posture different than before. Straighter, colder. When he noticed her watching, he smiled. But it wasn't the smile she knew. It felt rehearsed, like a mask slipping into place. He walked over and kissed her forehead. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I think I need some air," she said. "Good," he replied. "That's where we're headed next." Guests were being guided outside in small groups. No announcements, no explanations, just quiet movement, like everyone already knew what to do. Fire pits burned along a narrow path leading toward the beach. The ocean roared in the distance, louder than it should have been. Someone handed Sara another drink. She took one sip and stopped. It tasted bitter, unfamiliar. Her head felt light almost immediately, like the ground beneath her had shifted. "I don't feel good," she whispered. He placed a hand on her back, steering her forward. "It's just the atmosphere," he said calmly. "Let it take you." The sand was cold under her feet. Torches flickered in the wind, casting long, distorted shadows across the beach. A large circle had formed near the shoreline, people standing shoulder to shoulder, faces illuminated by firelight. Some wore white, others wore black. A few had masks that covered their eyes. Sara's heart began to race. At the center of the circle stood a man she hadn't seen before. He raised his hands, and the murmuring stopped instantly. "Tonight," he said, "is about release." The word echoed in the night air. He spoke about fear as a prison, about how true freedom came only when a person faced the reality of death without flinching. The ocean thundered behind him, each wave crashing like a warning no one wanted to hear. Sara's vision blurred. She reached for him, but he wasn't beside her anymore. Panic surged through her chest. She turned, scanning the faces around her. None of them met her eyes. It was as if she had become invisible. Then she saw it, a woman being led toward the center of the circle. She was barefoot, dressed in white. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely walk. Tears streaked down her face as she looked around, silently begging someone to stop this. Sara felt her breath catch. This wasn't a performance. This is a choice. The man in the center said, "A moment of courage." The woman shook her head, whispering something no one seemed willing to hear. Sara tried to step forward. Hands grabbed her arms from behind, not violently, not yet, firm, certain. Her body tensed as fear exploded inside her. "Let me go," she said, her voice trembling. No one responded. She twisted, struggling to break free, and that's when she saw him again, standing on the edge of the circle, watching. His face was calm, detached, like this was exactly how the night was supposed to unfold. "Sara," she cried out, "please." For a split second, their eyes met, and in that moment, she understood something that shattered her completely. He hadn't brought her here by accident. He had brought her here on purpose. Sara's legs felt weak, as if the strength had been drained from them without her permission. The hands on her arms tightened just enough to remind her she wasn't in control anymore. The circle seemed to close in, the firelight flickering faster, shadows stretching and twisting like they were alive. Her heart hammered so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. "This isn't what you think," someone near her murmured, not unkindly. "Just breathe," but Sara knew better. She watched as the woman in white was guided closer to the water. Waves surged forward, soaking the hem of her dress. She stumbled, nearly falling, and a sharp sob escaped her throat. No one moved to comfort her. The man in the center continued speaking, his voice steady, practiced. He talked about endings and beginnings, about how fear was the final barrier to enlightenment. His words washed over Sara like poison, each sentence making the truth clearer. This was rehearsed, planned, a ritual disguised as philosophy. Sara's vision narrowed. Her mouth felt dry. The bitter taste from the drink burned at the back of her throat. She tried to pull away again, this time harder, panic lending her strength. "Stop," she screamed. The word tore from her chest, raw and desperate, but it vanished into the roar of the ocean. A few heads turned, irritated, as if she were interrupting something sacred. "Take her back," a voice said calmly. She was dragged a few steps away from the circle, her feet dug into the sand, nails breaking as she clawed for balance. Tears streamed down her face now, blurring everything. She locked her eyes on him again. "You said you cared about me," she cried. "You said you'd protect me." For the first time that night, his expression shifted, not to guilt, to annoyance. "This is bigger than you," he said quietly. "You don't understand." That was when something inside Sara snapped. She twisted her body violently, elbowing one of the people holding her. Her arms slipped free for half a second, long enough for hope to surge through her veins. She ran, bare feet pounding against the sand, lungs burning, heart screaming at her to move faster. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she had to get away from the fire, from the circle, from the people who had stopped seeing her as human. Behind her, voices erupted. "Get her." Footsteps thundered closer. Sara veered toward the house, its lights glowing faintly in the distance. Salvation felt close enough to touch. She imagined locking herself in her room, screaming for help, breaking a window, anything. A hand caught her hair. She screamed again as she was yanked backward, crashing into the sand. The breath exploded out of her chest. Stars burst behind her eyes. She fought wildly, kicking, scratching, begging. "Please," she sobbed, "I'll do anything." No one answered. She was lifted, carried, her body suddenly heavy and uncooperative. The sedative in her system made her limbs feel distant, like they didn't belong to her anymore. As they dragged her back toward the shoreline, the firelight revealed faces she recognized. People she had laughed with hours earlier. People who had smiled at her, toasted with her. Now they watched in silence. The woman in white was gone. The ocean looked darker than before. Sara realized then what the party really was. Not a celebration, not an experience, a selection, and she understood with terrifying clarity that she had been chosen long before she ever arrived. Sara's body felt like it was sinking into itself, as though the night were swallowing her piece by piece. Every sound came from far away, the crackle of fire, the crash of waves, the low murmur of voices speaking as if this were routine. She was dragged to the edge of the circle. Her white dress was damp now, heavy with sand and seawater. Her arms trembled uncontrollably, not just from fear, but from the realization settling deep in her chest. No one here was going to help her. The man in the center turned toward her, up close. His face was calm, almost gentle. He looked at her the way someone might look at a candle before blowing it out. "This is the moment," he said. "Fear is loud, but it passes." Sara shook her head violently. "No," she whispered. "Please, please don't do this." Her words broke apart as she spoke them, desperation cracking her voice. She searched the crowd again, hoping, begging, to see one face change, one person step forward. One soul remember she was human. Her eyes found him. He stood with his arms crossed, jaw tight, gaze fixed on her like she was a problem that needed solving. Not once did he move toward her. Not once did he speak her name. The betrayal hurt more than the fear. They led her closer to the water. Each step felt unreal, like her body was moving through someone else's nightmare. The ocean surged forward, soaking her feet, the cold biting into her skin. She cried out again, screaming his name this time. "Why?" she sobbed. "Why me?" For a moment he looked away. That was the only answer she got. Hands forced her to her knees. The sand scraped against her skin as she collapsed forward, coughing, gagging on sobs she couldn't control. Her chest felt tight, each breath harder than the last. She tried to pray. The words wouldn't come. Someone behind her whispered something she couldn't hear, and suddenly the pressure on her arms increased. Panic exploded through her veins. She thrashed, screaming, but the strength she needed was gone. The drug in her system blurred the edges of her thoughts, slowed her reactions, betrayed her from the inside. The man in the center raised his hand. The crowd fell silent. "Remember," he said softly, "this is release." Sara's face twisted in terror. "This is murder," she cried. The word hung in the air, ugly and undeniable. For a brief second, the night seemed to hold its breath. Then the waves crashed louder, as if swallowing the truth whole. They lifted her. The sky above was endless and black, dotted with stars that felt cruelly indifferent. Her vision swam as tears poured from her eyes. Her body shook violently, instinct screaming at her to fight, to survive, to live. She thought of her mother. She thought of the life she hadn't lived yet. She thought of the moment she handed over her phone, of how small that decision had seemed. The water closed around her legs, cold, heavy, relentless. She screamed one last time as they pushed her forward, the ocean swallowing the sound almost immediately. And on the shore, the man who brought her there turned away because watching was no longer necessary. The ocean did what it always does. It erased. By the time the sun began to rise, the beach looked untouched. No torches, no circle, no signs of the night before. The waves smoothed the sand into something clean and innocent, as if nothing terrible had ever happened there. The house was quiet. Guests moved through it silently, gathering their belongings, avoiding one another's eyes. There were no goodbyes, no laughter, no music, just doors opening and closing, engines starting, tires crunching over gravel. By mid-morning, it was empty. Miles away, Sara's phone sat sealed in a numbered pouch, powered off, its last signal frozen in time. Messages from friends waited unread. A missed call from her mother blinked once before dying completely. When Sara didn't return home, no one panicked at first. She was young, independent, spontaneous. Friends assumed her phone had died, that she'd decided to stay an extra day. Florida was full of places where time disappeared. But as hours turned into days, unease set in. Her mother called again and again. Straight to voicemail. Friends retraced Sara's last messages, noticing things they hadn't questioned before. The vague location, the lack of details, the sudden excitement mixed with something that now felt like hesitation. "This guy seems intense," one friend said quietly. By the third day, panic replaced denial. A missing persons report was filed. Police asked the usual questions. Did she have problems? Was she depressed? Did she leave voluntarily? Her family insisted she wouldn't just disappear. Then, a fisherman made a call. A body had been spotted offshore, tangled in debris, carried in by the tide. By the time authorities arrived, the ocean had already done its damage. Identification took time. Dental records confirmed what her family feared most. Sara Ebersole. The cause of death was ruled drowning, but the details didn't sit right. Bruising on her wrists, marks on her arms. Traces of sedatives in her bloodstream, drugs she had never been prescribed, drugs no one could explain. The questions multiplied. Detectives traced her last known movements. Cell towers placed her hours away from where her body was found. Rental car records surfaced. Surveillance cameras along highways captured vehicles moving late at night toward a secluded stretch of coast. And slowly, a pattern emerged. This wasn't the first time. Investigators uncovered whispers of exclusive gatherings. Parties that didn't appear on social media, events with strict no-phone rules, attendees who signed non-disclosure agreements they barely remembered agreeing to. When police began questioning guests, stories conflicted. Some claimed they thought it was a performance, a symbolic ritual. Others said they left early. A few insisted nothing unusual happened at all. But one name kept resurfacing, the man who brought Sara there. He cooperated at first, calm, polite. He said Sara had been excited, said she drank too much, said she wandered off near the water and he tried to stop her. But digital evidence told a different story. Text messages where he reassured her. Voice notes where he encouraged her to let go of fear. Photos recovered from cloud storage showing past gatherings, circles, torches, figures dressed in white, different women. Same setting. As the investigation deepened, the media caught wind of it. Headlines exploded across the country. Florida death party. Secret ritual ends in tragedy. Woman lured to coastal gathering, found dead. The story horrified the public, not just because of how Sara died, but because of how easily she had been led there by someone she trusted, by someone who knew exactly what he was doing. And as detectives prepared their case, one truth became impossible to ignore. Sara Ebersole hadn't been at the wrong place at the wrong time. She had been invited, and someone had decided long before that night that she would never leave alive. The arrests didn't come with sirens or spectacle. They came quietly, early morning knocks, calm voices, hands placed behind backs as neighbors watched from behind curtains, unaware of the horror that had lived next door. Some of the people taken in for questioning looked confused. Others looked relieved. A few looked angry, as if the secret they'd worked so hard to protect had finally been exposed. The man who brought Sara there was among them. This time he didn't smile. During interrogation, his story unraveled quickly. He claimed the gathering was misunderstood, a spiritual retreat, a consensual experience. He insisted Sara had agreed to everything, that fear was part of the process, that people panicked when they didn't understand what they were witnessing. But detectives had something he didn't expect. A witness, one of the guests, had broken. A woman who had attended multiple parties came forward, her voice shaking as she described what really happened, how newcomers were groomed, how trust was built slowly, deliberately, how alcohol and sedatives were used to lower resistance, how the ritual always ended the same way, someone pushed to the edge, physically and mentally, until there was no turning back. She said they called it the crossing. She said Sara wasn't the first. The trial that followed was brutal. Every detail was dragged into the light, text messages read aloud, photos projected onto courtroom screens. Experts explained how manipulation worked, how consent could be engineered, how fear could be reframed as enlightenment. Sara's family sat through it all. They listened as strangers discussed her final moments like a puzzle to be solved. They watched the man who betrayed her avoid their eyes. They heard defense attorneys argue semantics, choice versus coercion, belief versus crime. When the verdicts were finally read, the courtroom was silent. Guilty, multiple charges, multiple defendants, long sentences handed down one by one. Some cried, some stared straight ahead, none apologized. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked Sara's mother how she felt. She paused before answering. "My daughter trusted someone," she said quietly. "That shouldn't be a death sentence." Today, Sara Ebersole's name lives on in court documents, headlines, and documentaries like this one. But she was more than a victim. She was a daughter, a friend, a woman who believed in people. Her story isn't about a party. It's about how danger doesn't always come screaming. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it holds your hand and tells you everything will be okay. And sometimes the most terrifying truth of all is that evil doesn't drag you in, it invites you. Years have passed since the night Sara Ebersole vanished into the Florida darkness, but the echoes of what happened there have never faded. The house was sold. The beach still fills with tourists. The ocean keeps moving, indifferent to the secrets buried beneath its surface. But for the people who loved Sara, time stopped the moment she didn't come home. Her mother still remembers the sound of the phone ringing unanswered, the way hope drained with every hour, the unbearable moment when police knocked on her door instead of her daughter. Birthdays now pass quietly. Holidays carry an empty chair no one knows how to fill. Friends speak of Sara in the present tense sometimes, by accident. They say things like, "She would love this," or "Sara would have laughed at that." Then the room goes silent, and reality crashes back in. The case changed laws. Florida introduced stricter regulations around private gatherings and consent-based events. Underground groups were forced into hiding. Similar networks in other states were exposed as survivors found the courage to speak. All because one woman didn't survive. Documentaries called it a cult. Others called it performance art gone wrong, but none of the labels mattered to Sara's family. To them, it was murder. What haunts investigators most isn't just how organized it was, but how ordinary the beginning seemed. A conversation, a connection, an invitation that felt flattering instead of frightening. Sara didn't ignore red flags. They were never shown to her, and that's the part that terrifies people the most. Because this story isn't about a reckless decision or a dangerous lifestyle. It's about trust, about how easily someone can rewrite reality when they take their time, when they learn what you want to hear, when they make you feel chosen. If Sara's story leaves you uneasy, it should, because somewhere, right now, someone is being told they're special. Someone is being promised an experience that will change their life. Someone is being asked to silence their instincts for the sake of belonging. And they might believe it. Sara Ebersole went to Florida looking for something beautiful. What she found was a lie dressed up as freedom, and the man who took her there didn't push her into danger. He walked her straight toward it and let the ocean do the rest. The final truth of Sara Ebersole's story isn't hidden in court transcripts or evidence logs. It lives in the silence that followed, in the questions no verdict could answer. Why her? Why that night? Why did no one stop it sooner? Investigators would later say the most chilling detail wasn't the ritual, or the planning, or even the cruelty. It was how normal it all began. No threats, no force, just patience, attention, a slow erosion of doubt until trust replaced instinct. The man who brought Sara there is serving his sentence now, locked behind concrete walls, stripped of charm and control. But the damage he caused didn't end with his conviction. It spread outward into families, into memories, into the quiet fear that follows stories like this. Because once you hear it, you start looking at invitations differently. You question secrecy disguised as exclusivity. You question experiences that require silence. You question anyone who asks you to surrender control and calls it enlightenment. Sara's life didn't end because she was careless. It ended because someone learned how to weaponize trust, and that's why her story is told again and again. Not to sensationalize her death, not to glorify the darkness, but to remind us of something simple and terrifying. The most dangerous people rarely look dangerous. They look kind, they look interesting, they look like someone you could fall for. Sara Ebersole believed she was stepping into a celebration. Instead, she walked into a lie that cost her everything. And if her story makes you pause the next time someone says, "Trust me, you'll love this," then her voice, silenced on that beach, is still being heard. Long after the headlines faded, one detail continued to haunt the people closest to the case. It wasn't the ritual, it wasn't the beach, it wasn't even the man who brought her there. It was the moment Sara hesitated. Investigators found it buried in a voice note she had sent to a friend earlier that day. Her tone was light, almost joking, but there was something underneath it. Something fragile. "Yeah, I'm excited," she said. "It's just kind of intense, but I think I'm just overthinking." Overthinking, that word echoed painfully for those who heard it, because Sara did feel something was off. Her instincts spoke quietly. Briefly, and like so many people before her, she questioned herself instead of the situation. Psychologists who later reviewed the case explained how predators rely on that exact moment, not ignorance. Not recklessness, but self-doubt, the way good people second. Guess their fear because they don't want to seem dramatic, rude, or ungrateful. Sara didn't want to disappoint him, didn't want to look paranoid, didn't want to ruin what felt like a rare connection, and that hesitation, that human instinct to be polite, to trust, to hope, became the opening. After the trial, survivors from similar gatherings began reaching out to Sara's family. Some wrote letters. Others shared stories they had never told anyone. They spoke of nights that felt wrong, of pressure disguised as choice, of walking away and not knowing why they still felt guilty for doing so. One message stood out. "I left," the woman wrote, "and I spent years wondering if I was just weak. Now I know I survived." Sara didn't get that chance. Her story became a line people draw in their minds, the point where curiosity ends and caution begins. The reminder that you never owe anyone access to your fear, your body, or your silence, especially not in the name of experience, especially not in the name of love. Somewhere, tonight, another invitation will be extended. Another promise of exclusivity, another whisper that says, "Don't worry, trust me." And because of Sara Ebersole, someone might finally listen to the quiet voice inside them that says no. Even years later, the shadow of that night lingers. Investigators continue to analyze how the Florida death party operated, uncovering networks of secret gatherings, carefully orchestrated to prey on trust and manipulate perception. They discovered that Sara's case, horrifying as it was part of a larger pattern. Women and men enticed, isolated, and pushed beyond their limits under the guise of enlightenment and thrill. Psychologists and criminal experts explain it as a study in control. Predators like the man who brought Sara exploit kindness, empathy, and hope, the very traits that make people human. They manipulate small decisions, small moments of doubt, and turn them into irreversible outcomes. Sara's family, while still grieving, became advocates. They spoke about the importance of intuition, consent, and awareness in situations that seem exclusive or special. Survivors of similar parties came forward, sharing stories that had been silenced by fear or shame. Each account revealed the same chilling truth. Predators don't announce themselves. They enter quietly, charm deeply, and wait for the perfect opportunity. Sara's story is more than tragedy. It's a warning. A testament to the danger of misplaced trust and the consequences of not listening to your instincts. It reminds us all that even in moments of excitement or affection, vigilance is essential. And while justice was served in court, the emotional scars left behind for her family, friends, and those who survived similar experiences will never fully heal. Her name lives on, not just as a victim, but as a symbol. A symbol of awareness, caution, and the importance of questioning the world around us, even when it looks inviting or familiar. Because sometimes the most dangerous people don't appear threatening at all. They appear trustworthy, charming, even caring. And that is what makes Sara's story unforgettable. If you want to honor Sara Ebersole's story, remember this: trust can be deadly when placed in the wrong hands. Always listen to your instincts and never ignore the small voice in your head that tells you something isn't right. For more chilling true crime stories, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join us here on Murder Book 360, where we uncover the dark truths behind the cases the world can't forget. And remember, sometimes danger doesn't knock. It invites you in.